This is Daniel's Lord Loud Cry. We are inviting you to this study, and this evening or this afternoon, we are bringing to you this study so that you may always have something to re-examine. To Seventh-day Adventists, it is a re-examination if you understand exactly what is the foundation of Seventh-day Adventists. And to those who are seeking for the truth, it is your time to compare both two sides. So we have started with the critics, they that will have something to say that is in comparison to what the Seventh Adventists have. So therefore, we have our guest with respect, because he has got the alternative understanding of 2300 days. To him, the Seventh Adventist, this was a failed prophecy. But now there is an why, because there is another understanding of the messages which he has. So we are narrowing down to what his understanding is all about: Daniel 8, Daniel 9, 10, 11, 12, and Daniel 13 and 14. So these are things that we are not going to lightly consider. We are going to be heavily, because I am taking my notes. You also take your notes as a viewer, so that we may do the examination of 2300 prophecy. So the past, we are waiting for him to come live, is our brother Kitonga. And we have done 2 videos so far. This is the third one, which we are going to narrow down into the work that is to be done, which is to understand the 2300 days and its fulfillment. First, there is a different part of the day-year principle. He speaks of the day-year principle. As you can see behind me here, there is an illustration of Daniel 7. He says that the lion and the bear are the first 2 beasts. And then coming to this one, which is the third beast, he says that Antiochus actually was in the throne at the same time with Greece. So he is counted as the third the third beast. So that's where we are seeing some issues that will arise later. So let us believe that we are working on the same platform. We want to see the same spirit, but not on the same platform. We are working on the same spirit, but not on the same platform. We want the truth to be in harmony at the end. So my brother is beginning with a presentation that is re-examining what the Seventh Adventist hold, which I will present at the end with a bit of 1 or 2 videos. So therefore, we are asking that the Lord may keep us to the very end. And I'm waiting that he may come in through the links, so that we may continue. Okay. So let us see, as he is coming back, as he's coming to join the conversation. We have one part of prophecy, and this part of prophecy is about Daniel 7. And Jesus is saying this. I want us to get into our scriptures. The Bible will always tell us the truth. Okay, let us check the scriptures on Matthew. Ours will be the book by King James. We will use King James, right? We shall use King James. So let me project King James, because King James, the scripture, Christ is telling us through his scriptures that when we shall see the abomination that causes desolate, And we are waiting for as we are waiting for Kilonza, we are going to read very important things that calls you, that you as a Christian, you are required to understand under the message of the first angel. The first angel of the revelation will always bring you to this part. Matthew chapter 24, verses number 15. Matthew 24, verses 15. The Savior tells us that when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, stand therefore in the holy place. Okay? The abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. So there is a work of reading in the last days. Last days, Christians are implored not to go for miracle or to go for things that are funny in the churches. They not to go for the investment of the Illuminati or the Freemasons in the Christian church by infiltration. We are told in the book of Revelation, okay? We are told in the book of Revelation, we are waiting for him to come live, okay? So that we may do our study. In the book of Revelation speaks of a warning which Christians are implored. Revelation chapter 14 verse 6. You see, what we are talking about is, in the last day there is a work of reading. A work of reading. Now look at the book of Revelation, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel, okay, unto his servant John. And we know his angel is Gabriel, who replaces Lucifer in heaven. He's the angel that replaces. Hey, yes, kindly come. I'm waiting for you live. So we are looking into the necessity of reading in the last days. Verse 2, who bear record of, and then he says, he signified by his angel unto his servant, the angel of God, who was Lucifer, and Lucifer rebelled and left heaven by inciting other angels, so that he may gain popularity and then gain worship. But then God replaces him by a mighty angel called Gabriel, and Gabriel is increased in power and strength. He is the one that will handle Lucifer in the last days. That is Revelation 20. Now, verse 2, about John. Now, these messages were given to John, who bear record, verse 2, who bear record of the word of God and of the testimony of Jesus Christ, and of all things that he saw. Now, God's people in the last day, look at this. Look at this instruction. The instruction says, blessed is he that readeth. That is the part that we want. Blessed is he that readeth. Those who will read this book in the last days, the things that must shortly come, which must shortly come to pass. I hope you're seeing your screen. All right. Now in verse 3, blessed is he that readeth. Very important part and key. Very important part for all who will look for the second coming of Christ. So let us continue. We are told that in the last days, we must read. We should read, because there are things that must come to pass. And the things that must come to pass are the events that are for us, for sure, a test of faith. Who knew that was a test of faith, of Christian faith. Where were Christians in the field? Where were the prophets? See, some of us are still running after prophets who have just failed the test of showing the danger of taking the vaccines, all right? Because they were politically correct, and the Bible prophets were never politically correct. Now our subject is Daniel 8 and verse number, beginning from verse, I'm not going to touch it now, okay? This vision of Daniel 8, I'm not going to touch the controversy until our brother will end his part, and I'm inviting all of you so that we may study these things together. My brother is coming to present. Now I'm seeing him is come, and we are adding him to our invitation so that we may have one part of presentation. And we were just putting, welcome brother Kilu Kilon Kitonga. We were inviting all others by the necessity of understanding the scripture, especially the book of Daniel. So we were saying that people should not run for miracles. People should not run for healing miracle or money making miracle business. They should run for the book of Revelation to take it. So the book of Revelation chapter 1 was saying, verse number 3 is saying that blessed is he that shall read, and we have our scripture there. We will put it together. Here we will be displaying whatever we will be showing, that the book of Revelation was given. We were just in the previous text in the book of, you see that? Revelation 1:3. Blessed is he that readeth. So in the last day, God is telling us we should be men and women who read, and not just reading, but that we may hear the book of Revelation, and that they that hear the words of this prophecy, okay, and they that hear the words of this book of this prophecy. So the book of Revelation is called Revelation because it is a revealed prophecy. So we thank you. We are welcoming you to this third part. We are just doing an altar call. Sorry for being late, and we are asking that we will put a clear break time end to the first, and then the beginning of the following video we will announce it clearly for others to wait for us, so that we may not fail that appointment hour. So welcome. This is the time which we are waiting for you, and tell us briefly what you're going to give us, and then you can comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you getting my articulation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We thank God again for the time after the break. It's a good afternoon. Actually, God is doing it. We've just we did a part which I could call a recap of part 1 and part 2. We did the part 2, and this is our third part that touches on the events surrounding prophecy of Daniel 8:14. And so far, we can attest and see it is a past time prophecy that happened even before Christ came. That is before incarnation. And we've gone through the history part of it, which maybe
Hello. 1 2. Are you getting us? We're not getting you in your side. We hope you can relocate your network. Get your network. So, as my brother is coming back online live, we are inviting you to this study of Daniel 8. There is one part that we hear that Daniel 8
on the
is the fourth beast.
points surrounding
All right,
the
here is back. Let us listen. Hey, you are lost for us. Your sound is not, we are not getting you. You are not clear. You are not clear. Hello, 1, 2. 1, 2. Hey, so as he's coming back to live, we'll continue doing our exhortation. Now, we are told to understand all the prophecies that Daniel spoke, right? So the prophecies that Daniel spoke were to be understood by men in the last days. So we are asking that we may continue once Kitonga is live. Right, there he is. Okay, we hope that you're back and you have relocated your network. Your network got lost when you are summarizing what you just spoke of. So kindly, you can pick on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I am using the phone. I've indicated, I've restricted calls, but somebody was calling anyway. That is why I realized that I was losing you, and I thought it was from your end, but I realized it was from my end. Anyway, we were doing some recap on the 2300 Daniel prophecy, and I'm happy that we are patient, and we, even with the hiccups we are getting and the loopholes within the system, but the message is very important, and God will manifest himself through the truth that maybe will be channeled through our vessels, that is our mouths, ourselves, but we are convicted within our hearts to see what is opening up. Right now, we have seen the blunder that took place in the land of Israel, perpetrated by Epiphanes. We went through a few desecrations that he committed in the sanctuary that brought to an halt the services in the sanctuary. Whenever the Israelites were either captured, taken to exile, they were conquered, they were taken under deep restrictions by the conquerors. Their services were brought under a stoppage, which meant them look foolish because they never knew anything they could do. And we know they were people instructed by God, and therefore they could not leave instruction irrespective of unfaithfulness that came, but they tried themselves to stay within the limits that God gave them. But these limits were hampered, were sometimes disrupted by intruders, and most of these intruders were told to the Israelites prophetically, because most of them came, this dismays came because of their unfaithfulness. They were being warned severally, but they didn't take heed. And so they are good. We are not blaming them. We know they are people of God who try their level best. However, we can learn from their mistakes and try to catch up with with what God has given us, so that we don't fall victims also. And they were victims, according to Daniel 8:14. We've seen how they were victims, and so we were trying to find out the timelines in which they were convicted, they were captured. Okay, their temple was taken down, and abominations done inside, making the temple what we call a center of idol worship in that period in which prophecy dictated. For our case, it was supposed to be 2,300 days, and I came up to realize it was, we've seen other versions talking of evenings and mornings, which in Hebrew we talk of a Reb Boka, which was not basically, because it is not basically the days being counted here, but the number of sacrifices that were to be stopped by the perpetrator, Antiochus IV, stopped the sacrifice, 2,300 of them. And we see the period covered by the 2,300 sacrifices was around 3 years plus months. 3 years plus some few months, otherwise, if we calculate properly, because we said and we saw that these evenings and mornings were counted as the number of the sacrifices, because there was one in the morning and another one in the evening. And if we get total of them, 2,300, we calculate in 2 days, we are going to get 1150 days, and we can convert the 1150 days into years. We get around 3 years. We also noted that Antiochus captured or started or did the abomination in the year 168 BC, when he came and captured the people of Israel. He took control of Israel, of what we call the Jerusalem temple, and of course he did the abominable things which we mentioned earlier on. We can follow back in our study. Thank God we have some few short notes with us, and we are good to go and see what is opening up. Now, after the 2000, we get around 3 years. 3 years. And in these 3 years, we had 2,300 sacrifices which went missing, which were not conducted because the temple services had come to an halt. This was the abomination performed by the little on that came after the 4 generals, that is after the 4 generals who succeeded Alexander the Great, the king of Greece, of the Grecian Empire. And out of 4 of them, we see the notable one, that it became exceedingly great, and it speaks, it cast down the truth. It brought down the temple, actually cast down the temple, and it also performed some very dangerous things before the eyes of Israelites, and this was not taken easily by the Israelites.
All right, our brother is coming back in a short while. We are going to listen to him because he has a different understanding of what we Seventh Adventists have, and this is a conversation we are calling you these meetings. Let us learn. Let us listen. Thank you so much for coming back again. We were just waiting for you. Now let's continue from where we just left.
Yes.
Your network. Yes, so as Kitonga is working out his video, it's part of the streaming live. He's streaming from a very difficult place to access internet, and we thank that the Lord will continue to guide him and enable him to. Now we are seeing that he's back again. We're just keeping that way until we will come to an end, and we are asking you, viewer, part 4 may be a part where we are stable to ask questions and to be answered. All right, so thank you. Welcome so much. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. Kindly be patient with us, brethren. Our devices, we are
Yes.
trying to use whatever we have within our means, but we ask for prayers for things to work through. We can get better mechanisms so that we can put things right, and by the will of God, we hope it will be fine. I want you to bring us the slide where we reached last, the 2,300 calculations. Let's move next, and next, right, next. Actually, there. So it was a question for how long, and we get the 2,300 evenings and mornings. That is 6 years. Let's move to the next. That is 6 years according to the number of days, if we were to count days. Another thing, brethren, we should take note of is then it's a, by the way, days in Hebrew is yom. But if you check, this is supposed to be rebuke. There is a reason they were counting evening, morning. Perhaps we cannot take it back to Genesis 1. This is for this matter, so that we can see what is happening and align to the message, to what is actual happenings within the ground, at the ground level. That is the typical happenings, the real happenings. Okay. Right.
This is NIV.
Yes.
NIV.
So I want. Hello.
Yes.
Our slide. Let's go back to our notes.
All right.
Yeah, we were trying to come up with the correct counting of the 2,300 exactly. We got 1150.
Will you kindly do this clearly so that every viewer may be clear on your view on how to calculate and where is the formula?
Actually, thank you for that addition and reaffirmation of what we are doing. Basically, we are seeing this in this page we are reading. However, the Hebrew does not say evenings and mornings. The word "and" is added. Anyway, the language, we should use it in English. But in Hebrew, we talk of evenings, mornings. Evenings, mornings. That is the interlinear will give us the same. You can check on that, look it up, which proves out to be a reference to the evening and morning sacrifices. That is what I want us to see. The daily sacrifices. Okay, if we check the King James, we talked and said that King James is talking of daily sacrifices, and the word sacrifices is italicized. And scholars say it is an addition. Of course, it's not a bad addition because it brings just an understanding. It's language, and it matches with whatever is happening. And at that time, what was that time? It was time when sacrifices were done on a daily basis. And these sacrifices were brought to an halt by Antiochus when he overcame the Jews and he brought the abominations, which we saw. He stopped the worship of Yahweh. He erected the image, his own image in the temple. He also brought the Greek god Zeus in the temple, and the sacrifices which were being now done were conducted in reference or in honor to those gods and his image. You see, now he's taking the place where God was supposed to be seated. And Antiochus is performing these things before the eyes of Israelites. In fact, he doesn't want any Israelite to do what? To worship God. The true God they were worshiping, because he was magnifying himself and is taking the place of the prince of the host. If you read the meaning of his name which he got, that the Epiphanes, it means the illustrious one. And he added Theos Epiphanes, which printed that inscription, that name in the coins and in many places around his kingdom, to show how he was demanding worship from people. Because some did so, others were not for that. We had strong men who stood for God, just as history has been. From the time of Daniel, the three boys, they stood, they never worshipped the image that the king Nebuchadnezzar erected. They stood strand, they stood for the truth, not because they thought they can stand for, no, because they were being moved by truth. That is, God was guiding them, and they remained steadfast to what God had instructed them, and they had witnessed before from God. You know, we have personal experiences. There's somebody who will come and maybe tell you something and advise you of something. You may take it from a light note. Maybe you may not take it on a serious note, but from his side, he's very serious because he has experience, and maybe he's giving you a confession. Maybe you can learn from it, or he's advising you on something of that sort. It is the same within our spiritual lives, and we can see what is happening. There are some men who stood strong against Antiochus Epiphanes. However, there was a series of fights because the Jews now could not let go of the services at the sanctuary that easily. And the exceedingly great one who is manifesting himself wants to trample, to pull them down. So we can guess the kind of war. Remember again, these things are literally what will happen, especially in these last days. And it's around worship, basically. It's basically about worship. And again, at the core of worship, it is who do you worship? Daniel, Meshach, Abednego, it was about who, not when, not how, not whatever things. It was who do you give your allegiance to? The Israelites gave their allegiance to the God of Israel, whom they witnessed since they left the land of Egypt to the promised land. And for my slide, brother Mike, exactly the slide. I need notes because we need to move to them together. Now, let's move to the next slide. Actually, we are done with this. Let's move to the next, and the next one. Actually, we can see the previous one, just the immediate one. Yeah, the ruler of the Seleucid kingdom, Antiochus, decided to magnify. You see what he did, and called himself Epiphanes, which I've just explained, and it carries the meaning of revelation of Christ. You know, the position, we are the one understanding the revelation of Christ, but Epiphany understood himself. He wanted to be a God. You see, but we living today, no. Nobody can take that position. Not even anybody can try to take the position of God, but of Christ. That's why the great controversy is, you know, God did set things to happen with purposes. It's not just that way. So Antiochus thought that he was emulating, he was taking the position of God, but we understand, those who have learned the gospel, that there is somebody who is like God, and that is Christ. And because Antiochus wanted to be like God, he carries, therefore, the Epiphany carries meaning and revelation of Christ, or sudden revelation, especially of origin, of heaven origin. And we can see what happens. We can see the Dios Epiphanes. Sorry for my notes, which are overlapping, but there is no problem. History says Antiochus sought to get people to worship him since he was so mighty. Let's move to the next slide. Next slide. But one more, specifically in his dominion of the people of Israel, he opposed the worship of Yahweh, which I've just explained, did various things that could be considered as desecration of the temple. In December 168 BC, Antiochus returned from a very disappointing war. This is kind of a recap. We've done it. Jerusalem and from Alexandria in Egypt, where he lost the battles and came and captured Jerusalem on a Sabbath. He didn't his general actually. After taking control, he erected of Zeus that particular time, offering. We know what offering is before God. So he offered a swine. These people were pagans actually. So he was introducing the paganism in the temple, and he was doing it by treating and doing it in the temple, the center of worship of the people of Israel. This was quite great abomination. And we can ask ourselves, how about that discretion? By reason of these actions, the daily sacrifices in the temple came to an halt. Let's move. Let us move very fast. Antiochus IV Epiphanes, he ruled between the Seleucid kingdom. The Seleucid king ruled between 175 BCE to 164. Remember, we are counting the years backwards before Christ, so there is no problem in understanding that. But it's not that year which he did when he did this. He did this, we've just seen in year 168 BC. Okay, if the worship of Yahweh, already highlighted these points, so let us move to the next part of it. Okay, yeah. So by this abomination, we say, okay, according to Daniel 8:11 to 12, by him the daily sacrifices were taken away, or stopped, or brought to an end. The place of Lord's sanctuary was cast down, and 3, the truth was cast down also. Let's move on. We are answering, remember, the question, how long will this continue? And we can know whether the sanctuary was indeed restored. Of course, yes. I have given a reference down here, John 10:22. If we read it, we are going to realize a very strange, let me call it a strange feast. We call the Feast of Dedication. John 10:22 says, now it was the Feast of Dedication in Jerusalem, and it was winter. We got 23, which is not here. We see Jesus entering the temple. So it was that time, okay, it was a feast that Jesus also arranged, Feast of Dedication. If we read when God was giving feast, it is in the book of Leviticus 23. We don't find such a feast called the Feast of Dedication. It is also called the Feast of Lights. There is reason for that. We are going to see in the next. But remember, it is new. It is a new feast, not from the list of feasts given to the people of Israel by God in the book of. It's not listed there. The first time we are seeing it, it is coming and resurfacing in the time of Antiochus, and it is being commemorated, celebrated, remembered after every year. The Feast of Dedication, Feast of Light, which in Hebrew we are going to call it Hanukkah. Some people believe it was first celebrated when the temple was being dedicated by Solomon. the Solomon temple. However, it was, yeah, Solomon dedicated the temple. However, this such a feast was not yet in existence. People did not commemorate that dedication of the temple every other year. No, it started after the temple was taken back by the Jews. And we are going to see the leader who led. You see, the temple shall be cleansed after 2,300. We are going to see the leader who led to capturing or taking back the temple and put it into the rightful and reconsecrated the temple. We can agree on the fact that by the time Jesus entered upon his ministry, the temple had already been rededicated. Of course, that's why he found the celebrations and he participated, being a Jew, in these celebrations. Hanukkah, we are going to see what Hanukkah is. We should remember that Jesus had to do his own cleansing of the temple. We are talking of the cleansing of the temple. We know what Jesus did when he came and found a defiled temple, chasing away and asking people, have you made the house of my father to be a den of thieves and forever? And okay, I mean, and so forth and so on. So he was doing his kind of cleansing. We can see right now as Jesus was cleansing the temple, but in his ministration, there was something he was teaching the people. Actually, there is something he was teaching the people. So let us not take it that way. But we are talking of cleansing of the, because this term as used in King James Version as maybe led us to think of something else when we come to the book of Daniel 8 and 14, verse 14, the cleansing of the temple. I gave other versions so that I can show the cleansing, what this cleansing meant and what it entails. And we've come across such points in our previous talks. Let's continue. Okay. So we again say this is not giving evidence. The cleansing, Daniel 8:14 is not talking of the cleansing that Jesus did. Let us not confuse issues on, let us not feel lost somewhere. Daniel 8:14, I've just talked about. We are going to see the cleansing taking place. But meanwhile, we've seen the desecration that needs now. We have a problem that needs to be done away with, to be cleansed, to be reconsecrated. And the temple needs to be put back to its rightful use that it was meant to use. Remember, time period of 3 years has gone. No temple services. Antiochus is ruling and is doing the abominable things in the temple. Very important to see that Jesus again is attending this feast of dedication.
So,
let's move on.
I have a question on the same. So just to be clear, do you mean now that that this feast was instituted by Antiochus?
The feast was not instituted by Antiochus. It was instituted by the Jews, the leader of Jews who led the revolt against Antiochus. But the events of Antiochus led to reinstitution of the feast, and it was celebrated and put as a celebration, as a feast to be observed among the Israelites. Before, it was not being observed. We can see it resurfacing and coming clear after Antiochus was conquered out of, and the temple was regained. The Jews regained use of the temple, took the temple back to the end. Yes, there is a machinery which was used. Okay, let's continue.
We can resume. Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. The next one, we are using this as our guide so that we can also try to keep time and remain within the context so that we can cover a lot. So let us be patient as we open up the pages. Brother, let's open the next page, please. Yes. The Feast of Dedication is as well known as the Feast of Lights or Hanukkah in Hebrew. It is a Jewish festival that begins at sundown of Kislev 25, usually in December, according to the Gregorian calendar. It is supposed to be around December. And is celebrated for the 8 days. 8 days. It is usually done for 8 days. There is a reason for that. Hanukkah, we say, reaffirms the ideals. You can see, if you read it all over, when did Hanukkah came into practice, full practice? It was that period. What was it for? You see, it affirms. Oh, I'm losing you. Yes, it reaffirms to bring back into full force the ideals of Judaism, the religion of the Jews, as we call it today, and commemorates in particular the rededication. Look here, I'm using the word rededication because the temple of the Solomon's temple was already dedicated by Solomon, but that did not bring the marking. Okay, it did not make that one a feast. It became later in the time when the abominations which Antiochus did in the temple were done, were cleansed actually. So we say commemorate particularly the rededication of the second temple of Jerusalem by the lighting of candles on each day of the festival. We even know the lighting apparatus they use. It has about it has 8 lights. Okay, there's one in the middle. It's supposed to be 7, 8. One in the middle. Okay, I needed to have the picture, but I didn't bring it because I didn't see it necessary for now. But we can see when you read Hanukkah, about Hanukkah all over the history, you'll see what accompanied this festival. Okay. In this festival, the Jews commemorate the victories over the forces of the Seleucid king Antiochus for Epiphanes. We can see that is when this feast was instituted fully and be observed.
We can display that candle issue, and then we see it.
Yes.
Just there.
Then yes. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see. We can see it from very far. There's history surrounding, and there's usage and restriction around surrounding it. We are not going to discuss about it, but we see this candle being lit in the observance of Hanukkah, that feast of Happy Hanukkah. You can see they do that one. And if you count them, they are 8 in number, leave alone the middle one. There was reason for the center one. You can read, you can search about it. Okay, it is all over in history. Okay, because we can't find it in the Bible, but we find it in history.
Yes.
But maybe it has been mentioned somewhere. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so let's
just
continue now. Somebody can
continue.
More about it.
Somebody can read more about it. Yeah, that candle specifically is lit when they are celebrating the Hanukkah, and there's the process and procedures of lighting that candle. So Hanukkah is a feast instituted by the Jews to remember, to commemorate the institution, bringing back of the services of the sanctuary and taking over the sanctuary from abomination, cleansing of that sanctuary, the temple. Let's continue. The next one. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we've done it. Let's move on. We've done that. We are rushing with the time. Yes. Consider. Okay. Going back. The previous. Yes. Daniel 8:14 from one of the versions, we said the NIV is talking about reconsecrated. The temple, the sanctuary will be reconsecrated. Why is it mentioned in terms of future? Because it is related to the time when Daniel was receiving the vision. It was a future time, many years to come, about 300 years from the time of Daniel. And this must have been one reason why Daniel fell sick, because it was to come many years when he was not there. But he could see the menace, because he understood the vision. Of course, he was given the understanding of the vision. Okay, so it was many years to come. So that's why the verse is reading, the sanctuary will be put back to purity. It will be purified. These things, the idol surrounding the idol worship, were being taken out of the temple, and the temple was now being used in the right way, as God has instructed, as it was intended within the tribe of Israel. The word of desecrated, and we even in the history, historians have used this word when they are describing the abominations which Antiochus did. They use the word desecration, desecrated. Antiochus desecrated the temple. And we see there is need for reconsecration. Okay, let's follow and see if truly a reconciliation, restoration, or bringing back to its rightful use of the temple was done. Let's go to the next one. We are running short of time, but I believe the system will allow us to add a few, even if it is 10 minutes. Let's keep in mind that it was in 168 BC. Don't forget this. Yeah, Antiochus did his abominable act of desecration. From that time, the Jews were severely oppressed and made to worship the Greek gods of the king. Not willing to be forced into the idol worship and oppression, a Jew called Judah Maccabee. Oh yes, this is another guy. Once we hear about him, we tend to sweep him out of our minds. Yet he's a man in history who did wonderful. God used this man in a wonderful way to reconsecrate the temple. To reconsecrate the temple. Judah Maccabee. This Maccabee. When you read the book of Maccabees, I'm not saying it is part of the canon, but it possesses very good, very important history. Let us not throw these things. They have a role to play as history and the Bible is concerned. You see, Bible and history, they go together, because something that took place, there is a man recorded in history, an extraordinary ordinary man called Yeshua, Jesus. He lived among the people and he came from nowhere to somewhere. Okay, history records about Jesus. He was crucified, leave alone the Bible. Yet the Bible describes the same events and it gives us more insight about that events. History may not give us because it is silent, but the Bible is audible. It speaks to us and tells us this is what is happening. So Judah Maccabee, with this small army, somebody can ask, did they defeat Antiochus Epiphanes, the great, the mighty ruler of that time? Remember, this is God in action. He's using this man. Always, Israelites, at the time of winning the battle, they've always won when they were the minority. They came up leaders, the winners and victorious. So Judah Maccabee, right on time, in 165 BC, took control, regained control of the temple. And it was exactly on 25th Kislev, this month of Kislev, 25th, the Hebrew month that corresponds to sometime in late November and early December, which is winter. We go back to John 10:22. Jesus attending the feast of dedication, it was winter. If you read, we can read that verse, please. We can read John 10:22. A feast which is not featuring amongst the feast that the Jews were given in Leviticus 23. Jesus is celebrating it. And we can see the events around that feast. Okay? And the timelines of the feast, it is coming in December, around winter time. And that winter time, remember, it was the time when the temple was desecrated, and exactly after the time set, after 2,300 time period, that is the sacrifice. Remember, I'm going to use 2,300 sacrifices to give us a period of 3 years. Why am I using that time? Remember, I explained a reb bouquet, the Hebrew word for evening and morning, that signified the morning and evening sacrifices. We brought them to get 3 years, and we talked of temple being desecrated by Antiochus in the year 168 BC. So we add the 3 years plus something, we get exact time, right on time. Judah Maccabee managed to secure the temple back. With his small army, he defeated and reconsecrated the temple. This guy, Judah Maccabee, should not and is not forgotten. History as in John 10:22. I was reading the verse 22. I don't know whether this is giving us K22. Okay, good. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. You see, this feast came at the exact time when Judah Maccabee reconsecrated the temple. We've seen it is, according to history, it is 165. A year after Antiochus the fourth had died, somebody was taking rule. He was not conquered. He died. Somebody was he died of sickness. Somebody took over. But still, what he had instituted in the temple, the idol worship, was still going on. And the Jews were fighting to recover the temple. And they did so exactly after the 2,300, that time span. To the sacrifices, they regained the temple. And it was winter. And again, we can see it is perfectly right matching. We have nothing to doubt about it. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. So the temple was rededicated by Judah Maccabee in the year 165 BC. In the year 165 BC. This was time period of 2,300 sacrifices.
All right, our friend, our brother is not clear. His sound again is getting lost. We pray that as he continue to unveil what the critics or the critic examiners have been doing to the 2300 days, we are praying that his network
need some 5 to 10.
So that brother, your sound, your network.
It was network.
All
are you having me back?
You have the all right. Begin from where you were speaking. All Maccabees dedicating the temple. 3 years later.
Yeah, 3 years later.
Right.
Yeah, in 165, the month of Kislev, according to the Hebrew calendar, which is matching the Gregorian calendar we use today, around late November and early December 2050, Kislev. Okay, Judah Maccabee was able, together with a little army he was together with, trying to secure back the temple, managed. This is by the hand of God. And this is when Hanukkah was celebrated. Miraculously, what happened? Let's go back to our slide. Within the temple, when we can see one aspect that Antiochus IV did, he smeared the temple with the pig's blood all over. But history shows that there was fortunate thing that happened. One of the containers holding this, the oil that were used to light the candles in the temple, was missed by the blood. It was found undefiled. Now it was one, and we remember this. This oil was replaced every other time, on daily basis, so that they can keep lighting. And there was only enough oil left for, the one that was not defiled by the blood, was not touched by the smeared blood of the swine or the pig in the temple. It was left just enough for one day.
Yes, your network is a problem again. It's a problem.
I'm here.
All right.
Hello.
Yes.
Are you getting
continue.
me?
Yes.
Well, as we said, we should continue praying. We get better equipment so that we are not disturbed in our presentations, because we need the truth to be clear. But anyway, our hearts will be touched by the truth, because in whichever angle they came in, it remains the truth, whether we have disturbances. Anyway, we are talking of what happened in the rededication of the temple. We had, when they captured this, the first thing they did, the temple, when they captured back the temple, they took control of the temple. Judah Maccabee and the Jews in general, they had to lead the candle. Remember, the temple needed to be lit, and we know what light represents. So it needed to be lit, and they used the oil. The oil that was left was enough to last for just one day. But miraculously, it rained up to the 8th day, and that was a miracle from God. God performed a great and wonderful miracle from in the eyes of the Jews, and they had all reasons to praise God. It rained miraculously. Little oil meant to last, that what could last for one day, rain for 8 days, miraculously from God. And that's why Hanukkah today is celebrated amongst the Jewish people, even from that time, in 8 days. And they light the candle. That's why they call it the Feast of Lights. It was a miraculous lighting of the candle. It was meant to light for one day. Remember, they were celebrating the recapturing of the temple. Rededication of the temple was being done, and the temple was being brought back to the rightful use, and the temple services were being instituted back in the way they were instructed by God. That was 165 BC. The temple was rededicated, having been cleansed by Maccabees from all the Greek idols. Remember the time span? That was 2,300 evening and morning. Sacrifices. Mark the word sacrifice. That is what I want us to pick up. in our calculations. Let's move on. We are about to finish. From that time, on a yearly basis, the Jews celebrate the Feast of Hanukkah. It was that feast that Jesus attended in John 10:22. It was nothing else. Jesus was not attending Feast of Dedication because Solomon did the dedication. No, it was the achievement they got out of capturing, bringing, regaining, and having their daily services going on. They were now being able to conduct their everyday sacrifices, daily sacrifice in the morning, in the evening, in the morning, in the evening. At the end of the year, they observed the Day of Atonement. Remember what it meant to their life in terms of their move with God was concerned. There is no mystery here, brethren. History lined up with prophecy and set it right before our eyes. But there are those who say that there is a dual fulfillment of this vision. Yes, this vision has risen a lot of questions, even among the Seventh-day scholars themselves, because they can see the history here, but something from Miller is also disturbing. But where do we plant our hearts in? Is it somebody's calculations? Is it what we are seeing before our eyes? Where do we put our faith? That is left with you. It is left with me. But we should pray. Do we have a dual fulfillment of this? Because this came from Adventist, Seventh-day, what we call the theologists, scholars. They find it should be having a dual, because they can see the fulfillment within the Antiochus time, that time we are talking about. And they have another one that was calculated by their pioneers of Adventism. So where are we going to, where are we going to put our trust in? Let's go on to the next slide. Okay. There are some words used in Daniel 8 that seems to indicate the last day fulfillment of the vision. I had given a clue over this. When we read verse 17 of Daniel 8, we go down there. Understand, son of man, Daniel is being instructed that the vision refers to the time of the end. The time of the end. Okay. I have the verses, please, so let us not worry. I have the verses. I have the verses there. Verse 17, understand, son of man. You see, the last day, this vision is for many days to come. It is being, it's illustrated in the verses down there. You continue reading the context, you get, the Bible sometimes interprets itself. You find the interpretation. We find this time being explained there. Verse 17, I've just read, understand, son of man, that the vision refers to the time of end. Verse 19, I am making known to you what shall happen in latter time of the indignation and the abominations after the abomination. For at the appointed time, the end shall be. What is this end? The end shall be. It is being explained down there. Let's continue. It is not talking about the end of time. We shall also have one time to study the time of end. What does the phrase the time of end in the Bible refers to? According to different context and different timelines, we shall study on that if God provides. Let's move on to the next slide. We have about 1 to 2 slides. Okay, both of these are explained. Verse 17 and verse 19. The wordings referring to the time of end, which people have carried past 1844 and have carried to the time before the coming back of Jesus, before the second advent. But is that what this chapter is talking about? Verse 23. In the latter time of their kingdom, is talking about the kingdom, the end of time of that particular kingdom. When the transgressors have reached their fullness, we see who came to the fullness. Antiochus Epiphanes. What he did to the fullest. He did the greatest abominable in the land of Israel, forbidding the worship of Yahweh, erecting his image and the image of the Greek god in the temple and offering sacrifices to them. And again, he forbade any ritual that the Jews used to perform, and he took the temple in his hands. So he was controlling. He made that temple the center of idol worship. The time it reached their fullness. And of course, that in the latter time of the kingdom, speaking about this kingdom that is doing abomination, it's not speaking of any other kingdom. If we go down through the context, verse 28, verse 26, therefore seal up the vision, for it refers to many days in the future. Why many days in the future? Refer back to Daniel when he was receiving this vision. When he was receiving this vision, to the time when the actual events were taking place, it was many days in the future. Let's move on. Please kindly take note of this, because these are some of the things that maybe we missed and it ended up coming with 1844. Yes, there is something that happened in 1844. There is something that happened, but it's not related to what is happening here. What happened? It's not related. However, we can see the rise of Adventism in the year 1844. But this rise was contributed by the calculations using 2,300 days, and the principle of 1 day is equals to 1 year principle. Is it working? If it works here, then we are going to distort that history completely. And again, it will bring a side effect, which is now the worst effect to the gospel of Christ and the work that Christ has done in our atonement and every other thing. Let's move on. Daniel was disturbed because he asked, he was asked again to seal up the vision, since it was to be fulfilled many days, quite some time in the future. This was in relation, I'm saying, to the time when Daniel received the vision. Look, Daniel saw the vision in the 3rd year of reign of Babylonian king Belshazzar. Okay, I'll clear that one. That is when he received the vision.
All right, our brother is going to come back. And as he's coming back, we just wait for him for a moment. All right, so it just right back.
In the beginning was a Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God.
All right, so we are just back on time. Let's Kilonzo Kilu Kitonga continue giving us the side of the views of all the important history that we have had in the past, and we will have them in place at the end. Let's have everything be studied. We don't want miracle. We want to read and know where to find our miracles. Thank you. So I hope you're back, and as we continue. Hey, can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Your sound. Your sound. Hello, can you hear me? I cannot hear you on my. Let me. Let me get things correct. All right, so my side, I can hear you, but your sound to me, your microphone. Check your microphone.
I then saw the third angel. Said my accompanying angel, "Fearful is his work, awful is his mission. He is the angel that is to select the wheat from the tares, and seal or bind the wheat for the heavenly garner. These things should engross the whole mind, the whole attention,